The story of the Ottoman Empire is often remembered through battles, conquests, and rulers whose names echo across centuries. But behind the armies and the vast geography it controlled, the empire's true strength rested on something far more powerful than swords or cannons. It was an empire that, for much of its history, stood not on fear, but on fairness, justice, and a system that aimed to protect the weak as strongly as it empowered the strong. Reports from historians reveal that the Ottoman world, stretching across 3 continents, was stitched together by a belief that a state survives only when every citizen, Muslim or non-Muslim, receives justice. It was a principle repeated by sultans and enforced by judges, viziers, and administrators across thousands of towns and cities. While Europe struggled through religious wars and sectarian conflicts, the Ottomans managed a multicultural society with remarkable stability. Their cities were home to Turks, Arabs, Greeks, Armenians, Jews, Kurds, Bosnians, Albanians, and dozens of other groups, each allowed to maintain their language, culture, and religion. In a time when intolerance was normal, this approach set the empire apart. Correspondents studying Ottoman archives describe courtrooms where farmers could challenge wealthy landowners, traders could confront corrupt officials, and minorities could sue Muslims and win. Judges were required to follow written laws and moral principles rather than the status of the people who stood before them. In many cases, even the Sultan himself could not interfere with a judge's ruling. This independence became one of the cornerstones of Ottoman justice and one of the main reasons the empire remained stable for centuries. The empire's fairness was most visible in its treatment of religious communities. Under a system later known as the millet structure, Christians, Jews, and others were allowed to run their own schools, churches, synagogues, and community courts. They paid taxes but were free to follow their faith without persecution. During times when Jews fled from Spain, Portugal, and parts of Europe because of violent expulsions, the Ottoman state welcomed them. Reports from the era describe families arriving in Istanbul, Salonika, and other major cities where they rebuilt their lives under imperial protection. Their skills in trade, finance, and craftsmanship contributed to the empire's prosperity. Economic fairness also played a major role. The Ottoman market system required merchants to sell goods at reasonable prices. Inspectors walked through bazaars daily, checking scales and monitoring the quality of food, cloth, and other essentials. Those who cheated customers faced heavy fines or public punishment. The state's goal was to prevent the rich from exploiting the poor and to maintain market stability. European travelers often wrote with surprise about how orderly and fair Ottoman markets were compared to their own. Beyond justice, in cities and markets, the Ottomans believed in protecting the powerless. Across the empire, countless reports describe how orphans, widows, and the elderly received support from charitable foundations known as waqfs. These institutions, funded by wealthy citizens and members of the royal family, operated schools, hospitals, water fountains, soup kitchens, and caravanserais that offered shelter to travelers. In many regions, a poor person could enter a public kitchen every day and receive a warm meal without fear of humiliation. The system ensured that no citizen would fall completely helpless. The sultans themselves were expected to uphold fairness. Newly crowned rulers would visit a symbolic location in Istanbul where they were reminded that their power existed only so long as they governed with justice. Even the most powerful men in the empire were subject to the law. Venetian diplomats wrote of how Ottoman officials dreaded public accusations of corruption, fearing they would lose their positions or face severe punishment. This accountability helped maintain trust in the government. Military strength certainly helped the Ottomans expand, but it was fairness that kept territories loyal. When remote provinces rebelled, imperial investigations often discovered that the people did not revolt against the Sultan, but against local governors who abused their power. Once these corrupt officials were removed, peace returned quickly. This pattern repeated across centuries, showing that ordinary people saw the central government as a protector rather than an oppressor. One of the clearest examples of Ottoman justice came during the time of Suleiman, often called the lawgiver. He oversaw major legal reforms, ensuring laws were written clearly, punishments were proportionate, and judges were well trained. Foreign diplomats who met him noted that he spent as much time on legal matters as he did on military strategy. Under his rule, the empire reached its golden age, not just because of expansion, but because people from all backgrounds felt secure under imperial law. Even within the palace, fairness was a guiding principle. The training of the Janissaries, the elite infantry, emphasized discipline and loyalty, not fear. They were paid well, received regular training, and were forbidden from mistreating civilians. This professional structure helped the Ottomans maintain order in war and peace. Accounts from European observers note that Janissary soldiers, while formidable on the battlefield, were expected to behave responsibly within cities, showing respect to merchants and civilians. As centuries passed, challenges grew, European powers expanded, global trade routes shifted, and new technologies changed warfare. The empire faced internal struggles and moments of corruption, but even during decline, the ideal of fairness remained deeply rooted in society. Reform movements in the 19th century attempted to revive the old principles of justice through new laws, modernization efforts, and equal citizenship rights for all religious groups. Though the empire eventually dissolved, its legacy of legal fairness influenced many parts of the modern world. Today, historians agree that the Ottoman Empire's endurance over 600 remarkable years cannot be explained by military power alone. Its true strength came from a stable legal system, religious tolerance, community welfare, and a commitment to balanced governance. Where many empires ruled through fear, the Ottomans understood a deeper truth. A state survives when its people believe they will be treated fairly. This belief allowed millions to live together across vast distances, dozens of cultures, and many religions. It created cities where mosques stood beside churches and synagogues, where markets were regulated, and where justice could be sought by anyone, rich or poor, Muslim or non-Muslim. In an era defined by division, the empire proved that fairness could build unity, and justice could build loyalty. Centuries later, the world continues to study how fairness, not fear, shaped one of history's greatest empires. And the message remains as relevant today as it was then. True power comes not from ruling with force, but from governing with justice.